4 years ago today, the Batley Grammar School teacher was forced into hiding after showing a cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad. We can now speak with his friend, Paul Halloran. Paul, welcome to the show. You're also the guy who started the fundraiser to support the teacher. 4 years ago today, Paul, forced into hiding simply for doing his job, was abandoned by the school, by his union, by the political class, by the entire media, and to this day lives in fear. Paul, tell us, for starters, if you could, is he doing okay, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, as I've spoke to you previously, Martin, I speak to the teacher via an intermediary and sometimes directly to himself. The man is scared. His family are scared. It's as simple as that. As I've always alluded to, he's gone through an absolutely horrendous situation, abandoned, as you've said, by all the people that should have cared for him. And he's just been sacrificed, in my opinion, on the altar of political correctness. He's just been sacrificed, and it's absolutely appalling that a gentleman who has been proven to have been doing his job, the report that came out last year, qualified that everybody had abandoned him, and this gentleman and his family live in fear, and he's scared. That's the words that have been used with me, scared, and it's understandable. And
Paul, that fear came out of very, very credible threats. We can see there a mob assembled outside the school 4 years ago. They were shipped in from outside the area. They whipped up a frenzy, and the consequence was the school had a decision to make. It had a choice. They could defend one of their own, or they could abandon him. And that's what they chose. They chose to abandon him.
Yeah, immediately the head teacher at the school just simply threw him under the bus, told him to go. I don't think there was any duty of care towards him. It was basically, get out of the building and you do what you need to do. And obviously he felt the need to get away because there was credible threats, and that's unarguable is that situation. And what would you do? What would anybody do in the same state of mind? You'd gather your family and you'd get out of there, because obviously there's instances of other teachers, and in Samuel Paté, for example, where the thoughts of what could have happened are quite frankly unimaginable.
I mean, that teacher was decapitated in France.
Exactly.
We saw with Charlie Hebdo, we've seen with Salman Rushdie. If you offend a certain community, the consequences can literally be life-changing or life-ending. And at that point, Paul Halloran, the local political class could have stepped in and did something. I stood with you in Batley Market Square on the eve of that by-election all those years ago, and we invited, did we not, every candidate to come and defend that teacher. That by-election, which was won by Kim Ledbetter of the Labour Party, of course, Jo Cox's sister, was won on a tiny majority. There were more people, Paul Halloran, in that square on that night than that majority. And I still believe to this day, if the Conservative candidate had actually stuck up for the teacher, they may well have won that seat, but they didn't. Every politician in the area, you believe, abandoned the teacher as well.
Yeah, living locally, I'm privy to certain knowledge, and I know for a fact a Conservative candidate, Ryan Stevenson, was told to just swerve it. We're just not going to get involved in this whatsoever. And the fact is, if Ryan Stevenson and the Tory party had been brave enough, and you don't even have to be brave because we're on the side of right here, if they'd have turned up that evening in Batley Marketplace, and spoke, given a good speech in defence of a teacher, it would have won the election.
I totally agree. I totally agree. I was there with you, and I was just struck by this total cowardice. And what's driving it, Paul? And people talk about, is it silence in return for votes, or are they afraid too? What's driving this cowardice?
It's votes. It's as simple as that. People need votes. And up until, obviously, the dynamic has changed recently when George Galloway stood and the Palestine issue, because the vast majority of the Muslim community in an area where I live have now abandoned the Labour Party. But at that time, they couldn't have got in without the Muslim vote, the block vote, as we call it. And they basically, it's fact, I'm not afraid to say this on live television, they doff their cap to the Muslim community, and at the end of the day, ultimately, that's where they rely on the votes, and that's what did it. And that's what's still driving this situation, because he's still abandoned. Nobody's willing to share the GoFundMe. How can the political classes or the people like Tracy Brabin, Kim Ledbetter, and Iqbal Mohammed, who's the new MP for Dewsbury and Batley, I wrote to them directly via email yesterday asking them to share the GoFundMe page. I have, over 4 years, highlighted to Tracy Brabin and Kim Ledbetter that they won't share the GoFundMe. Why would that be? What is the answer to that? What are they so afraid of to share a GoFundMe that helps a person and his family in need? It defies logic.
OK, we'll share that GoFundMe in a moment. But we've also at GB News Today made approaches. So I've got a few statements now, Paul Halloran, to read out. In reply, the National Education Union spokesperson today told GB News these claims are false. The Khan Review, which investigated the Batley incidents, recognised the work and support given by the NEU. It states they were impressed by the leadership, support and care demonstrated by the NEU to the teacher. And a spokesperson for the Mayor, Tracy Brabin, told us this. As the local MP, Tracy worked hard behind the scenes to calm community tensions, reaching out to all of those involved, including the school leadership, unions, community leaders, teachers and others. Sadly, this regrettable incident was inflamed by outsiders using it for their own political ends. The intimidation and threats towards the teacher were deplorable and completely unacceptable. Now, it's also worth pointing out that we've contacted the Labour MP, Kim Ledbetter, Batley Grammar School themselves, and also the independent MP for Dewsbury and Batley, Iqbal Mohammed, and none of them have yet responded. We did contact them this morning. We're delighted to carry your response if you'd like to get in touch. Paul Halloran, I also, over these past few months, have been putting out a series of freedom of information requests to every area, every party in the area which must have information. I've been met by a wall of silence. We do not hold the information. I got here. We do not hold the information. We do hold the information, but we can't give it you out because it will breach data confidentiality. A wall of silence wherever you go, Paul Halloran. It's absolutely still the same as it was 4 years ago today. A community still living in fear.
Most definitely. And this wall of silence, it speaks volumes, Martin. If they've nothing to hide, share all the information. Share it. We know these things go on, that people cover things up, and it needs to be shared. We need to find out what's gone on, because it's okay people like Tracy Brabin saying she did, beg your pardon, Tracy Brabin said she did X, Y, Z. No, I'm sorry. You know, nobody reached out to the teacher. There's talks that people spoke directly to the teacher. Nobody has spoke directly to the teacher and asked about his welfare.
And Paul Halloran, as you say, there is a GoFundMe page to support the Batley Grammar School teacher. I think we've got a picture of that now. You can get involved. Paul Halloran, you started that all those years ago. It's currently raised £103,000, 730. And all of that money, Paul Halloran, goes directly to the teacher and his family to help them maintain some semblance of a normal life. Final word to you. Do you live in hope that the teacher may ever, in the future, hopefully get his life back?
We all live in hope that that's the case, because he's a fine young man who I've known most of his life. He's a fine young man, and I just hope he can find some inner peace along with his family. The sad state of affairs is it's very, very unlikely that he will feel safe enough to come back to the place where his social network is, his family is, and is, in my opinion, is just being cast aside. It's appalling. Paul
Halloran, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for the work you do. And please, on behalf of everybody watching this show, pass on our support and our love to the teacher and his family. Paul Halloran, thank you very much for coming on the show today on the 4th anniversary of the shame this teacher being forced into hiding.
If I can just take 1 second of your time, Martin, as well, I would like to thank you, because you've been an absolutely massive advocate for the teacher. You've supported me since day one, and you're the person who keeps pushing it out there. So thank you to yourself as well.
Well, that's very kind, but it's not about me. But thanks for saying that. It really upsets me.